what is the organ that controls all organs? What is the organ that controls the bloodstream, the cardiovascular system? It usually comes back to the idea that the brain has nerves that are sent out to and from every tissue cell in the body, and that is a venue through which messages are transmitted to and from, which allows this open communication line between the most important organ and every organ in the body. Why is that important? Well, this is the pathway through which innate, that infinite wisdom we talked about, travels in the body. And when there's interference to that, which can happen in the body and happen in the spinal column, then there's a potential interference in the infinite, and that's where we see this absence of normal, or what we call in chiropractic dis-ease, which is a play on words. Disease is when there's some kind of thing getting you, and I believe instead of having something get you from the outside, it's usually an interference to something interesting or beautiful on the inside. That is another way of saying dis-ease, because ease is life, and dis-ease is an absence of that. And when you look at it from that perspective, it's more empowering, because then you look at your body as if, oh, I have life coming in, and when there's interference to that, I have an absence of life. The potential is you're going to understand your body and stop chasing your tail. If you start to think about your body that, oh, you know what, it's a simple concept, I can actually direct where I'm going, you start to gain authority and responsibility to figure yourself out. Now, the most important organ relative to the spinal column, there's a skull and vertebral bones that are in every human body. And the reason that the skull and the vertebral column and the spinal column was developed is for two reasons. One is to protect the most important organ, and the next is to provide a platform for movement. So the protection, if you think about it, the brain is the only organ in the body that is totally encased in bone. There's no other organ except for the eyeballs that has as much protection. So this infinite wisdom that's pretty smart, because it's infinite, it decided to make sure that you had protection around your brain. You think about this skull, inside the skull is the brain, and it's totally encased in bone, but there's a hole at the base of the skull, so this hole called foramen magnum, which is Latin for large hole, that hole is where all the nerves must come through, and they exit down through your neck into your spinal column. Well, each segment of bone that's below that is movable. And so for that reason, there's a potential, if they get dislodged out of place in a incorrect mobile fashion, that's called a subluxation, because it interferes with the infinite that's traveling through. And that subluxation is the potential that's lost in your body's ability to express life and interpret the environment. So your nerve system is not what we have been taught in our culture all to do with pain. Actually, the pain fibers are less than 5% of what's going on in the nerve system. Most of it is actually messages that are being sent to and from the body that you never feel or know about. Like, for instance, do you feel that your liver is producing proteins and your body is right now digesting food, or it's recreating your eye tissue out of what you ate? You don't feel that, but that's all being coordinated behind the scenes. An example would be if you pinch the nerve that's feeding your adrenal gland, there's several chemicals that come off of the top of the kidney. That adrenal gland is going to produce too much, too little, or the wrong kind of chemical. And because of that, you have an abnormal expression of life. And that's just from the function of a nerve sending messages. What about the messages being sent back? The messages going back to the brain are potentially saying something incorrect, like we're not producing too much, too little, or the wrong kind. So the brain has no recourse to check itself. And because of that, you end up in this subluxation pattern, producing abnormal life expression, which can be called and diagnosed as disease. And in our office, what I say is, disease is a symptom, it's a blessing in disguise, and it's helping guide you back to normal. And if you do get empowered, and to the degree that you do get empowered, you start to become your own healthcare provider, you problem solve at a higher level, and you start to be confident with your body, which is a placebo in itself. Understanding that your body is a self-healing organism is powerful, because then you stop putting all the authority on the outside and you start believing that you can heal on the inside, which that right there, that placebo effect, is one of the most powerful healing capacities that we know.